Well, good morning, and thank you once again for inviting me here. Thanks. Make sure I know what I'm doing here. I think my first trip to India was in, Rajesh, was it 2006, I think, when I was here. And I would say that India, and Delhi in particular, is almost unrecognizable from when I was here the first time compared to now. You all have contributed to this big change. And the other thing that's interesting, when I arrived on Sunday morning, things are actually going to transform even more and even faster. So this idea of transformation, this theme of the conference, to me is actually became very meaningful, and it just was like instantly, let's say, relevant to me when I arrived. And you watch how quickly the force of the people that are here, and the political transformation, and people participating in government. I mean, it's quite extraordinary what we're witnessing right here in India. So as many of you know, really our world is facing serious challenges. We are facing those here in India as well as many other parts of the world. Issues about having adequate energy. We heard from Agendra earlier about the lights. Can we keep the lights on? We still feel that here today. Climate change and making sure we have enough water. Can we feed our people? Are we going to be able to manage our planet in a sustainable way? All these things are quite challenging, and yet at the same time, we really have quite a bright future. You and your colleagues are making amazing use of this technology that we call GIS. You're already addressing these challenges. There's something quite interesting about, actually several interesting things, I would say, about GIS, in that it helps us bring all kinds of information together. It also provides us this visual picture about what's happening. It's qualitative through that visual appearance, but it's also quite quantitative and systematic and comprehensive, allowing us to see things in a completely different way. And it's this vision that we all need, this sort of common understanding, that actually will help us face these challenges and continue on with this transformation. So GIS actually does change the way we think, and more importantly, how we act. Through this integration of geography and science, we actually begin to see things and think about things in a different way. We have what we call the geographic approach, this idea that there's this cycle and a continuum where we measure things, we can analyze them, we can begin to make predictions, understanding trade-offs, we can prepare plans of various types. Then we actually can sort of put the other side of our brain, the right side of our brain, to work, where we can design and get creative about what the future should be. We can evaluate various trade-offs. We actually then can decide in a more rational way what our path should be. And then we need to act. We act sometimes without this, but in reality, having this information and having the benefit of this technology is really quite extraordinary about planning a better future. So GIS is being transformed. The world is being transformed, but GIS is also being transformed. There are a number of technology trends, really, that we are leveraging with this technology. Things like the web and cloud computing, the evolution of and standardization of web services, faster computing, in a sense, ubiquitous computing, measurements of all types, also devices, moving to devices. It's quite amazing. We're also leveraging let's say, taking advantage of the ability to integrate many different things using, let's say, information technologies, things like location-based services and location analytics, the power of where things are, and then taking a look at those in context. Also, real-time information. Agendra talked about this geo-event processor. Things are becoming real-time. We are able to know where we are all the time. We're able to measure and scan things and have all these measurements. And now we can visualize and start to use them in 3D. And in a sense, we're ending up with content which is pervasive. This idea that data is everywhere around us and accessible. Pretty interesting. So this new emerging platform that we call Web-GIS actually takes advantage of all these things. And it uses the power of GIS to help us integrate and make sense of all this. So through apps, through mapping, through pervasive access, through the ability to mash things up, all of a sudden, GIS technology that used to be sort of this backroom thing done by only specialists, all of a sudden becomes much easier. It becomes more open, and more importantly, it becomes collaborative, allowing us to work together in a more productive way to solve these problems. Web-GIS is actually a big change. I've had the privilege of joining you here at Esri India conferences a number of times, and we've always talked about the next step and the next step and sort of these evolutionary steps. Well, yes, we continue to do that, but I would say this Web-GIS pattern is a big step. In a way, it's really a turning point for us. So it's a change in paradigm about how we're going to access and have the ability on devices, changing the interfaces, getting access to relevant information very, very quickly through apps and through meaningful information products. Web-GIS also gives us the power to integrate all types of data, taking maps of various types and map data, integrating imagery, and in fact, the United States Geological Survey, many of you know these Landsat satellites that have been up in space for over 20 years now, 30 years almost, actually. Millions and millions and millions of scenes of information. It's pretty interesting. I was having a discussion with one of my colleagues the other day about this. It used to be that there were actually hundreds of people that would manage the archives and manage all this. Now, with this new pattern, actually all the archives of every scene that was ever captured by Landsat is now available online. And one person manages this archive. And we can access any part of that archive in 2.3 milliseconds. Oh, wow. So, to me, this is really a revolutionary thing. The way that we work, the way that we access this information, the way that we integrate with web services, the way that we can integrate enterprise information out of our asset management systems, out of our ERPs, out of our business intelligence, bringing this all together. Combining this, actually, with real-time data that Agendra talked about, and big data and information from sensor networks. And let's not forget people, social media. Social media is all part of this and made accessible through Web-GIS, and in particular through something that we call web maps. So this idea is pretty interesting. So we're actually moving dramatically from this idea of database-centric systems into this new Web-GIS, where web maps allow us to take distributed systems or information from distributed systems and distributed services and mash them up in a very simple way and make them available to any device anywhere. Web-GIS also has some interesting characteristics. There are actually 3 ways that Web-GIS actually integrates things. Some of these are actually not new. This idea of dynamic linking, hyperlinks. Well, somebody here can probably correct me, but when was that done? Like at the supercomputing lab, we did these hyperlinks in Chicago, like 1990, something like that, where you could take a link and you could hyperlink out to another HTML page or to an image or something like that. We still have that, and it's part of Web-GIS. We leverage all of these things, but now we can dynamically link out to information from a real-time network. Things have evolved. The ability of visually overlaying, I mean, this is really the way that it's kind of like the signature of GIS, layers of information brought together to bring new insights. And so we have that pattern of integration. We also have something else which is really quite unique to GIS. Not only can we visualize information that has already been collected, but we actually can use GIS to integrate ideas, new ideas, models about predictions of the future. So this is actually something that's quite unique and quite extraordinary. And it really is about helping us discover new patterns so we can take this new action that we've all talked about. GIS continues to be supported in multiple implementation patterns. I would say that most everyone here is familiar with this file-based pattern, a desktop with our own information that we use on a day-to-day basis. Also, many of you are working in work groups where you have a shared database where you're doing transactions and then taking that information and doing a server-centric pattern, which is about serving information out. Web-GIS is something completely different. In a sense, it is all about the web. It's about integrating all of these patterns and also being able to do this in a much more open way, taking advantages of the web, taking advantage of cloud computing, taking advantage of every one of these new types of devices. So Web-GIS is actually available and accessible on any client. And it's powered by web services. So this platform actually also has a portal. So this idea of being able to organize content, to create meaningful information pattern or information products for me, for my groups that I work with and I need to collaborate with, for multiple groups within an organization, or for the public at large. This Web-GIS pattern and ArcGIS through ArcGIS Online actually is becoming what really is a living atlas of information. All types of ready-to-use content, your own content, content from your organization, content from your colleagues, all available. So this is the best available information being shared on a global basis. So this is not only base map information or imagery. This is information about water. This is information about food, information about people, information about money. You name it, it's all there. And we need it, every bit of it, to be able to address the difficult problems that we face. GIS servers and cloud services actually provide the infrastructure for all this. This is both powerful data management as well as geospatial services. These actually can be secured in the cloud, both public cloud, which gives us this huge scalability, and they also can be placed behind the firewall. So actually the best of both worlds are available to you. So the other thing about this is that we're really moving from this idea of geocentric workflows into a whole new community of users and applications. In a sense, business users. Think about your own organization. Well, you have a GIS group, maybe. You have, one or two or a dozen people that are working hard. But maybe in your organization, there's hundreds or even thousands of people. And they come to you for maps, sometimes. Sometimes they actually don't even have the benefit of that information. But how do we actually unlock the power of what you're doing and make it available throughout your entire organization? Actually, these people don't even care about GIS. What they care about is simple mapping and analytics. And maybe actually there are developers that want to get access to this information and get creative about new ways to deliver information. So their idea here is this Web-GIS platform actually supports all these communities. So this is kind of another way to look at it. Actually, Web-GIS platform supports everything. The Web-GIS platform has mapping, analytics, manages content, and enables sharing. GIS is part of it. Simple mapping is part of it. Integration with enterprise systems is built in. There are open APIs. There are mobile SDKs. And there are apps. Apps, lots of apps. Isn't that what we do? We go out to the Apple Store or Google Play or wherever, and we're downloading apps. That's what my daughter always, she will send me an SMS. Got a cool new app, Dad. you can actually know where I go now. I said, well, I don't know if I want to know that, but anyway. It's a whole new world. It's a whole new social world, lightweight apps. So the other thing about this Web-GIS is that we also are now emerging into a new era where powerful analytical services are actually available, not just on our desktop, but actually in the cloud. So this new era is really emerging, where I can actually launch out without having any software at all. I need a web browser, or I need a device, and I can take advantage of some really powerful analytics. Okay, things that we're familiar with, like overlaying and intersecting, being able to do drive time analysis very quickly, the ability to geocode information. And this is going to become very, very, very powerful and easy here now with this new relationship that we have with Map My India, best map information for all of India. Also being able to get directions. We all can need better directions, finding our way. And then something else that's pretty interesting here, this idea that we call geo-enrichment. Okay, so what about all this information about demographics? What about all this information about consumer preferences? What about all this information about all these different layers of information. How can I actually take advantage of those? How can I take one type of information and geo-enrich it with all of these other things that are out there on the web? Pretty interesting concept. So all of these things put together is something also pretty interesting to me, is that this Web-GIS pattern is being adopted very broadly and very quickly. So this is actually creating a whole new infrastructure, and it's enabling many things like citizen access, like government infrastructure. And these portals are also being set up to enable and create and make more powerful open data, opening up our data to help us be more effective, be more efficient, help us launch into a whole new world of sustainability and a whole new world of what is becoming the information economy. Well, thank goodness I have a friend here and a colleague, Krishna. He's going to show us a little bit about how this pattern works. Krishna?
Thank you, Dean. Good morning, everybody. GIS is all about how you can make use of the information, right? And this is the government portal, which gives a lot of information. Think about, can we make use of the open portal, which has so much of information? How easy it is with the upcoming platforms of what we are talking about, the ArcGIS as a platform, how simply we can make use of this information. We can go and visit this. This is the data.gov.in, which is an open source data government portal, which has a lot of information with it. I can go in, you can see the data sets are organized in various things, and now I can go into a ministry of this, and I can go to the planning commission, and I have a unique identification authority. This shares a lot of information, and I have information of district-wise daily details of an Aadhaar generated. And when I download this, just to validate, and the data looks like this. You have a state, you have a district name, and the amount of that daily enrollments of Aadhaar which have happened. So this is an information. How can this information be converted into an action? That's the goal. You have this information, and how simply it can be. And that's where the ArcGIS online platform has been so powerful. It's as simple as that. Any layman, even the statistician who is using the GIS for his first time, can do it just at a few clicks of a button. And that's how it has been enabled. I can log on to my ArcGIS online portal. I can go in there, add in the layer from the file. I can choose the file for this. And I can just open it up. And I can say, you can import the layer. And then it gives you a choice whether to do it lat long or addresses. But now, as the data.gov has only a reference of an address, so I pick up my state and the district as the geocoding aspect and just geocode them. And the geocoding, depend upon the size of the data, can be done. I just for looking at the time, I have plotted them. And that's the UIDI registration details of yesterday. So the information is plotted.
Krishna, this is pretty interesting. Don't you think this is interesting? So I had this spreadsheet of information, and all of a sudden now it becomes instantly visual.
Yes.
But what do all those dots mean, Krishna?
Yeah. So actually now that become, what is this? And that's where now the platform has given me more of analysis to you. You would have need from the 10.2 and even in the 10.1 we have gotten an optimized hotspot analysis has been introduced into our desktop and the server platforms, and the same thing has been enabled onto the online platform also. And it's so simple. You can just go in down to the UIDI thing and you can say perform analysis. We have so many analysis switches there. You can see you can aggregate the information. It's what the Dean was mentioning about. And as I was telling you about, you can do the proximity, you can find the nearest or adjacent information. Or now I can analyze the pattern. This is where the optimized hotspots can help you in doing this. It's as simple, just click on this, add in your analysis field. So I have an Aadhaar generated, I get the result, and you can run in your results for that. So when I go in back, I have just ran already those analysis and see the pattern which has emerged. From an Excel sheet, we have brought the information onto the map, and now this, isn't that has got an action for all of the decision makers? You can see the pattern which has emerged. And this pattern is basically talking about what we call the hot and the cold spots. So where the maximum number of registrations happening, and where it is happening and where it is not very, very significant. So this can think the decision makers or the governing body to how to improve that. And the same thing, we have made use of another information from the Ministry of Health. It's about the health centers, the rural health centers facilities available in India. And when I plot them there, you can see that's a huge number. So when I ask a common man, he says, no, I don't have these facilities. How does it make efficient to my decision makers to know that with the information available there? So this is where again, the analysis has brought in. Now you see the information which is coming in. There's so much of significance of the information down south and how the northeast is differing and the north are contributing to it. So this action on a very small time can give the decision makers a chance to look at and look for that change or the action to be taken on the field. Over to you.
Krishna, thank you. That's really amazing. So taking this open data, being able to download it, put it into a live map, looking for new patterns, and, well, what do you think? For me, this is really signifying a whole new era of action. And I think you'll all agree that we need that. This will help improve collaboration, help our decision making, help communicate, and create, in a sense, a whole new level of understanding. So this conference and the work that you do, actually your work is essential for being able to apply this new pattern, take your spatial thinking knowledge and bring it to the rest of the world. So Web-GIS is an evolutionary, or really, I believe, a revolutionary step, where this is enabling us to move really from professional GIS into truly societal GIS, and leveraging our collective geospatial investments and really making way for a smarter society. So thank you all for inviting me here today, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.